not to make it light-hearted, but as a head of quality, I do get bushed a lot with the Ofsted Queen. I'm always on about Ofsted, but obviously that is part of the quality and performance role. And again, we may have colleagues on this call who have been through a recent Ofsted visit. As many of you have already said, you do work somewhere else as well, not necessarily for the WEA. But we also have colleagues here that may have only worked for the WEA and may have been here last time Ofsted came, which was obviously with a different framework. But we also might have colleagues that are new to teaching that have never done an Ofsted visit before. So I've had to try and take all those things into account. So please excuse me if I do tell you some things that you think I already know this, Jodi, because we've done this wherever I've worked before. But obviously we tried to cover everybody. So looking at what it inspects and how it inspects it first, I thought was a good place to start. Everything that I'm talking about today, you can find obviously on this website here. We will make sure that this presentation is on the Tutor Hub and everybody can have a look back at it. Anybody that's not here today obviously can look at the recording. But this isn't what I've made or what I think, Jodi. This is obviously all come from the guiding documents that were provided, which are obviously online for everybody to have a look at. So I've just briefly mentioned that there. So as I say, if anybody wants any bedtime reading, I'm sure they might like to go on and have a look at those at a later date. So all the guidance that we have from Ofsted is reviewed annually and it's in place for the new academic year. So things do change and we have to keep updated. And if there's any in-year changes, they are reflected obviously and they publish an update, which they have done recently, which is I'm going to share with you. All Ofsted guidance shows a summary of the changes, when and why they've done it. And over the last few years, there have obviously been a lot of changes with COVID and remote education, and sexual harassment has been a new thing that's been brought in. So just to look at remote, because that is still really a big thing in the WEA, as we've just spoken about in Simon's presentation, we still do a lot of remote education. But Ofsted don't have a preferred model. So it can be delivered remotely, online and integrated into the education and training and designed to support the wider implementation of our curriculum. So as we said, we're going more and more back now to face-to-face, but we are also doing some hybrid. So where we've got a bit of both. So that's absolutely fine from an Ofsted perspective. And it really depends on the organisation that you work for, whether they would like to put some back online, would like to do a mix. For us, as Simon alluded to, we're not just an online provider. You know, we went online because of COVID, as most places did, but we are getting back to more and more face-to-face. And obviously where it is more advantageous for the learners, we will go back to face-to-face where we can. And those courses have probably worked quite well and the learners liked it, we will stay on remote. So it is really for us as an organisation to decide what is best. Ofsted, you know, for want of a better word, won't criticise or, you know, either way of what we do. It's what obviously suits our needs of our learners and our organisation. So the recent changes, there's been an update July 2022. Again, apologies if people have read this, but they've removed a lot of the COVID-19 section because we're coming out of obviously what we needed to do for COVID. So that section has been taken out of the guidance. There's a new section, they talk about how you can use the Ofsted logo, whether you're a good or an outstanding training provider or organisation. There's some new guidance on what you can put the logo on your website and documentation, etc. They've added reference and information regarding new enhanced inspections, which I'm going to talk about because that's what we will receive. And there is also some added information about sub-judgment. So we're looking at skills courses that we do. And again, we're starting to do them in the WEA. So I'll talk about those. In December, just before Christmas, they added, again, another update. And they talked about having a shadow nominee. So we have a lead nominee when Ofsted do arrive. and I'll talk about that again. And now they've decided you can have a shadow nominee who can go to all the meetings and listen in and take notes, etc. And it's also to benefit to the organisation that they've got somebody that's shadowing that may going to be the lead nominee at a later date. So it's CPD and training. And as you'll see moving forward, I've been given that lovely title to go in and take notes, but the shadow nominee cannot get involved to answer questions and speak, which I probably, those that know me, especially in my team, do like to talk, so I'm probably going to find that quite difficult not to speak and just to take notes, but I'm going to be the shadow nominee for the organisation. So as I said, a new part of the guidance, and this is the statement from Ofsted, that all providers should be contributing effectively to meeting the skilled needs of employers and the local, regional and national economy through the range of programmes that we teach, the content and planning of that curriculum and their engagement and collaboration with employers and stakeholders. So it's doing a lot more qualifications, skills provision to get people into employment or upskill, and look at the needs of that region. So we have started as an organisation to do that, but obviously we will be looking at that more moving forward, because you do get a sub-judgment for that, whether you make a limited, a reasonable or a strong contribution. So they've just added that in this summer. So again, the changes that they've put in with the enhanced inspections is how they now inspect is they'll give us 5 to 6 days notice. And the inspection will last 2 to 5 days. So normally you would get probably 2 working days notice. So they will probably ring you, for example, on the Thursday to come on the Monday. But now, for example, I've got an ex-colleague that I've spoken to recently from the Midlands that have just had their college inspected, and they got notified on the Tuesday and they came on the following Tuesday. So and they did stay for the whole 5 days. I would I'm surmising here that we will probably get a 5-day inspection because we are such a large organisation. There is a lot obviously of us to see. So that's sort of what we're looking that we'll feel we'll have moving forward. So as it is with the last inspection that we had here, they will look at lesson observations, including paired observations with members of the WEA observation team. They will talk to learners about their progress. This is a difference from the last inspection, is they're very focused on talking to the learners and looking at how they've progressed on their course. Again, they'll meet with the leadership team, curriculum and quality, tutors, governors, so they will set up meetings and want to speak to key people. They might say, for example, please can I speak to tutors that teach on this particular subject or in this particular region. So within the 5 to 6 days notice period, they will speak to the lead nominee in the WEA and look at what curriculum areas they would like to focus on and do some deep dives on those. So look at everything within that particular curriculum area. What we're surmising here, talking to colleagues that I know that are Ofsted inspectors, they may really look at a curriculum area and look at triangulating that. So look at, if we teach a particular thing in one region, how does that compare to that same curriculum area in another region? And we've got more than one region that teach the same thing. So it's triangulating the standards of that curriculum area through the whole organisation. They will send out, as they've done before again, an online survey before they come to the learners and the staff. If anybody's interested in looking at those questions, they are all on the government website of what that survey is, so that you can have a look at what they may be asked. Of course, they look at our data, look at the learner numbers, our achievement, attendance, what staff development we do, etc. And they will look at obviously some documentation to inform their, before they get towards our last inspection report, any self-assessments, reports that we do, and our quality improvement plans. So they will have a look at all that documentation as well. Okay, so what it might be like for us at the WEA, what I really wanted to try and talk about today is what this means to us as an organisation, and you as a member of staff here, whether you're an EC or a tutor, or because it's deciphering the guidance. So I've tried to cut it down and make it really applicable for us. So because we do lessons online and face-to-face, they could visit anywhere. As before, anybody that worked here, when we had our last inspection, of course I didn't, but they focused on 3 or 4 regions. Of course, it's a little bit easier for Ofsted inspectors to get about now, because before they would go face to face and they would have to travel to that particular destination. Of course, they can ask for a lot more online, so they can look at a wider range of things. Is that what I'm trying to say, I suppose? So as I said, both online and face to face. Again, what normally happens is the lead inspector would have a base room. So for example, in Leeds, but this time there might be virtual. So they don't have to have a base room, because obviously we've moved on so much with technology and how we do things. As I said before, they will do paired observations. We are currently, you may have seen, recruiting some quality improvement assurance leads. We have actually appointed some are starting soon, and we are looking at having a smaller observation team. So we will ensure that they are trained and ready for pairing up with Ofsted when they come. They would have Zoom or Teams meetings with everybody, and that could be the trustees, the governors, obviously volunteers. We are a really large organisation, and as I said, inspectors will, their main focus is looking at the learners' work, assessments and things that we use on Canvas, because again, it's easier to have access now than it perhaps was years ago when we did things on paper. So is the Ofsted inspection framework relevant to the WEA? Yes, it is. For me, if we follow the inspection framework in what we do in our everyday business, in our everyday lives, if we adhere to that, it is really easy when Ofsted comes, because that is what we are doing, and that's the quality and the standards that we should be doing it at. So this isn't really, let's get all this ready for Ofsted. This is really good practice of what we should be doing with our quality and our teaching and learning. And then Ofsted becomes, as I say, just a visitor, because we are quite used to doing everything that way anyway. So everything that we've started to implement within the WEA does align with the framework. So for example, the way that we've now done our class visits, our lesson observations, meet the criteria of the IF, so that tutors are familiar with how we do that. Our self-assessment reports, this academic year we've done a self-assessment report in areas and in regions. So again, it addresses everything on the framework, and everything that we do aligns with the education and training foundation framework also, which all links together. So we are working towards everything that we would expect to be looked at for Ofsted anyway. So it is all relevant to the WEA, because we are obviously government funded. So any course that is funded comes under the EIF. Just go back one, apologies. So I'm just going to look at now the preparation, so that everybody's aware of what we've been doing to prepare and how we meet those challenges and who's been involved. So again, this is just really good information for everybody to be aware of. So how else do we know what Ofsted are looking for? So as I've said previously, they will look at recent Ofsted inspection reports. We're really starting as a team to look at what they're doing elsewhere. So, you know, if anybody works anywhere else and has got any information to share with us, you know, we all look at ex-colleagues and places they work and look at reports that are published from other places, so that we can get a good idea of what's going on. Obviously, we're up to date with all the handbooks and the new guidance, which I shared with you at the start. Ofsted do bring out an annual report, and obviously they updates and key speeches that we make sure that we are involved in, so that we know what's going on. And as I said, looking at experience through other providers. So we are starting to link up with not necessarily competitors, but other organisations that work near us, again, to all support and help each other and share those experiences so that we are prepared. So this just gives you a little flavour. Again, you can look at the Ofsted annual report. They've wrote it for last academic year. These are just some points from it that really are a favourite also for adult learners. So they look at things like patterns of attendance, ensure the teachers are sufficiently skilled or trained for remote learning, looking at learners with high needs, so see how we can ensure that they can participate, especially when it's online and remote, and also the number of learners with mental health problems and any safeguarding concerns. And again, this is written more because it was obviously COVID, it was, you know, at its height more last year moving forward. But again, if anybody wants to look at the Ofsted annual report, that is available to have a look at. This is another case study we've been looking at a very large multi-campus college. They've recently had their inspection, and some points for us to focus on there. They looked at their sexual harassment and violence policy. So we will circulate that round so that everybody is aware of that if you've not seen that. Another thing they really focused on was the tutors' qualifications and staff CPD. So what impact has CPD had on your teaching and your everyday work? Structure charts, so that's something that is very large in the WEA, because we've got a lot of, as Simon said, 850 tutors currently, and a lot of staff. So we are working on making sure that they're all up to date, because Ofsted may obviously want to have a look at that. They looked at a common thread through agendas and the templates and how we cascade our information. So things like today, what we're doing today. So that's something that we're really focusing on. And again, if anybody's got any ideas of communication, how things could be better and information could be cascaded better, please let me know. And another thing they really looked at was initial assessments. So how you used your initial assessment on your course and linked it to the progress of the learners. So where did they start? What was their starting point? And what progress they'd made on the course? So that's just some tips from a case study from, like I say, a recently inspected college. So when will we be inspected? That is a good question. Everybody asks me that lots. If I had the answer, it'd be brilliant. But we were last inspected in November 2017. So obviously quite a lot of colleagues may have worked here then. And we were good, and it was published obviously at the start of 2018. We have got the link if anybody would like to have a read of the report. We can be inspected at any time, but we definitely will have a full inspection, and it should be any time now. So between, it's normally 5 years, so we would be due now, but obviously due to COVID, they are behind in some cases. We could be visited because we're good for research work, and we are obviously quite a unique organisation compared to others. Obviously, they really risk assess on whom they're going to see. So if there's any concerns over safeguarding, we have a massive decline in our performance. Something could trigger us to go at the front of the queue, basically. And sometimes that can be if you've had a change in your senior leadership. And of course, we have had a new CEO with Simon, and a new leadership team. So it's anybody's guess where we are in the queue, but we are obviously due to be inspected at any point. So do we need to be Ofsted ready? Of course we do. But as I said earlier, for me, if we are following the EIF guidance, we are ready for Ofsted. So Ofsted are clear that there's no additional documentation or planning necessary. It's business as usual, and we would carry on as we normally do, but it's to make sure that we are doing what we should be doing every day. And we're putting our best foot forward. So it's about showcasing what we do and making sure we are ready and prepared to do that. We are a very large, as we know, dispersed organisation, which can present its challenges because there's a lot of people that work here and it's all over the country. Obviously, you know, those of us that have worked in colleges previously, it is more, you know, within a campus, so it's held in a smaller place. So again, if anybody's worked anywhere else that is similar to us, if they've got any great ideas, then that would be brilliant. Any lessons that we can learn from anything that anyone's done, please just let me know, because we are really, you know, wanting to be ensure that we put our best foot forward and we are ready. So as I said, we have got some practical challenges. How we notify everybody, because there's a large amount of people. So we have been working on how we conduct the communication to make sure that everybody gets to find out. So for example, you know, we could have our notification and there's a tutor that doesn't work until the following week. So we need to make sure that they would know that Ofsted would be here when they came back to work. Timetabling, because our timetables that we've got on the system, whether that be face-to-face or online, need to match actually what's going on out in face-to-face or in the virtual classroom. So it needs to be correct that we're giving Ofsted the correct timetable. Any communication updates, we need to make sure that everybody's got that, and any questions. And inspectors can obviously access the online classes, especially as this morning we first talked about getting on Zoom and the difficulties some people have had just recently. So we need to obviously look into that. My point is for everyone to feel confident about their role and knowing what they've got to do and why we're doing it. So this is obviously why we're talking about it today. So it's likely that Ofsted will want to talk to you. As I said, the leadership team and heads of region, etc. All tutors need to be considered to be in scope, because they could ask to see particular subject areas or particular regions. Again, any learner could be asked. It's really important they want to talk to learners. On, again, some feedback we had from another colleague and a recent inspection is they weren't as interested in what the managers and the tutors had to say. They were more interested in the learners, because they are, you know, the heart of what we're doing, and that's really important, their feedback. We could be saying, oh, this is great and that's great, but they will obviously evidence and back that up, so to speak. So it's really important they talk to them. And they may, as I say, also want to talk to trustees and anyone in charge of safeguarding, committee members, etc., and observers. So behind the scenes, there's been a whole organisational effort so far. It isn't just obviously the quality team. We've had lots, as it states here, of other teams included in, for example, marketing, how we get that communication out to everybody very quickly. How we look at the timetabling to make that sure that's correct, how we get permissions for the inspectors to use Zoom accounts. So we have a meeting every week to discuss different things and make sure these things are all in place ready. We have a table which we will share with you of all the nominees for and all the lead people for each region, each subject area, etc. But this is the main core Ofsted team, just so that you are aware. This may grow over time, and we may bring different people in depending on what Ofsted asks for, but we have our own sort of email address that we can share everything, because if this was in a campus, we would be in one room and we would have a room obviously set up for the inspectors, but obviously it's working a little bit differently because we're such a diverse organisation. The wider team, obviously, as I said, we've got a whole list of who are second and third nominees also, because we could have people on annual leave or people off sick. And there's lots of different heads of different departments that are leads within each of the regions. So we'll ensure that that's disseminated with this presentation, so you're totally aware of who is the lead in your area that you work, so everybody knows that same information. Okay, so part of the readiness and the support that we want to give everyone to feel confident is to giving briefings to different groups of people depending on what you do, and this is just the start. We have already done some of this to some of the leads, etc., before Christmas. All the notifications and the communications, as I said, are ready. They will be disseminated out in different formats: Canvas, the newsletter, on the intranet, even text messages. So one of the things people could do today, after today, is to make sure that the phone number that we've got for you is correct, so that you can receive a text message, as I say, because if anybody is off and doesn't work that day, we want to get that message out as quickly as possible. We will email obviously out to everybody, and we'll use the core team and wider team emails to collate things that we're going to be showing the inspectors. We've started to practice a lot of these systems to make sure that we are ready in our internal quality reviews. So far, we have done two of them before Christmas. The last one we did was with the Northwest. So anybody that works in the Northwest, we practiced the communications with the internal quality review, what we'll use for Ofsted. So we sent those communications out to see who they reached, and each time we're then reviewing it and learning from those reviews, ready for when it is Ofsted. So they've been really, really useful. Every region has got a position paper and a presentation. They're actually currently being updated to make sure that they are ready, and they are on the intranet, so anyone can have a look at those within your region. And it shows you about the region, how many learners you've got, your demographics, what courses you do, again, so that everybody's got that information in case they're asked. We've been testing the Zoom and Teams accounts because obviously we've had the changes with the IT, so we can make sure that inspectors can get onto what they need. We're preparing data reports so that they're ready at the touch of a button. As we said earlier, with the new digital transformation, this will be a lot easier moving forward, what we can get ready for inspectors and how quick we can get that ready. So I do hope they come after the digital transformation when we've got the new system, but obviously we can't choose. And there is checklists available, and again, you can have a look at those, anything that you need to see, so that you can see that you've got that ready. So that will be quite helpful. Okay, so what is the focus and how we will implement it? Again, this is all hopefully to support everybody in this visit, but this is what we should, as I said, be doing in our everyday lives. So many people have probably already seen this and are already doing it, so please forgive me, but this is the 4 key areas that Ofsted now look at in the new framework. So the quality of education, the main focus is really the intent, the implementation and the impact. So if we use the 3 I's in everything we do, we can't go far wrong really. As most of you all know, we've changed a lot of the paperwork to suit this style of working. We look at even our new scheme of learning, where we look at what the intent of the course is and the intent of that session, how we're going to implement it, so how we're going to deliver it, what we're teaching and learning are we going to do within that session, and the assessment, and what impact that has. So what have they learned within that session? And of course, the impact of the whole course, the bigger picture, is have they passed their qualification, or have they achieved their learning outcomes, and what are they going on to the destination next? A part of this is also looking at the other 3, which behaviours and attitude, personal development, leadership and management. So looking that we embed those within the courses and the curriculum that we do. So for example, if it's a course that has a qualification attached to it, that we're not just teaching that qualification, are we teaching them some knowledge and skills that will help them to be more employable or better citizens, or help them with their everyday wider skills. So things like that we would be embedding into our courses. Of course, the limiting factor, as it always has been, is safeguarding. We need to make sure that we are embedding that into everything we do, and we are supporting that within the organisation, because that would limit to what grade that we could get. So again, I won't read this out to you word for word, but we'll just discuss it a little bit further. So as I said, the 3 I's. The main thing really is looking at the curriculum. Is it ambitious? Is it planned in sequence? Does it build knowledge skills for future learning and employment? So how do we then implement the content in long term over the period of time of the course? How do we assess that and check knowledge and understanding, and the resources, etc., used to implement that? The impact obviously is the achievement. We can look at our achievement data, we can look at the knowledge and skills that people have learnt on the course, where are the learners going after the course, and have they, as I said, met their requirements for the qualifications, or in our case, we haven't always got a qualification, but we have got learning outcomes for the courses. So a main thing what we've been talking about recently, and I just wanted to mention this because, again, it is a big thing that Ofsted do look at, and it is something that we need to ensure that we are putting into our planning on our courses. This example here isn't mine, it is from Ofsted, and they talk about running a marathon. We wouldn't just get off our settee and go and run a marathon. Some people may, but if our intent was to run a marathon, how would we sequence it? Where would we start? So we develop a plan, then we stick to the plan. We start with some shorter runs and build up the distance. So that's where we are sequencing the learning, or in this case, the marathon running. We're building some speed work, some strength training, and look at appropriate nutrition and hydration, and then we would monitor our improvements till we got better to run the marathon. So as you can see with this, the example is it's those building blocks to build up to what the end impact will be, which is ultimately running the marathon. So they just show it on this sequence here. We have developed some pyramids such as this, a skills pyramid. We have developed this within the scheme of learning. There is a course outline that you can give to your learners that just shows the sequencing and how they will build their skills on the course. So you can make this as detailed and do it however you want, depending on your course. But it's really good practice to show how the skills, the knowledge has been built up and sequenced throughout the programme. So how they've progressed. So you'll see the word sequencing being used quite a lot. It's quite a key word within the Ofsted framework. Also, Ofsted talk a lot about the research of how we ensure that what we're teaching and what the students are learning is built into the long-term memory. So it's really about ensuring that we recall things and go back to previous learning to check the learning and knowledge is still there. So they use the word recall a lot. Can they still recall what they did in the first week, for example, in the 10th week? So do we go back and recap that? How do we build that within our sequencing and our planning? So that's just another thing to consider. So looking at, the intent. These were just some ideas, some key ideas of how we can evidence our intent, not just for Ofsted, but in everyday life when we're doing our own self-assessments about our areas that we work in or our regions. So this was, like I say, some ideas of how we can do that. So looking at the minute, as most people will know, because we've been doing this academic year, we're using our scheme now as a scheme of learning. So all of our planning is in one document. So that's a really good document that we can show what our intent is, and also our curriculum intent form. So there clearly states what the intent of this course is and why we're doing it. I won't go, like I say, through each one word for word. You will, like I say, have access to this. But it's for us to be aware and think about, if we are asked what's the intent of the programme, how we can evidence it. We're doing it. We're doing it anyway, and this is the ways that we can show anybody that was to ask us and for ourselves how we are looking at our intent. Why have we chosen the courses that we've chosen? Is it in conjunction with partners and employers and other people we work with? Have we looked at our local community needs to identify what courses would be great in the area we live in? What skills gap we've got? That feeds into our curriculum plan. So everything, as I say, all the evidence is there. It isn't any more work than we're doing, but it's about being aware of where you would find that evidence. And again, with implementation, so how are we implementing it? We're checking that with our class visits and observations, and we're giving examples there of good practice and things that we can improve on. Looking at reviewing our materials online and all the activities that we use, how we differentiate and personalize them for different learners. Again, all of the evidence is there. We just need to be aware of how we're doing that moving forward. And again, with the impact, how do we have evidence of their impact? So looking at work that the learners do, how have they progressed from the start to how have they then finished at the end? Where was their starting points? Our destination data, where are they going on to? So why it's really important at the end of the course that we look at, are they going on to another course? Are they going into employment? So again, the evidence is there. It's just making sure that we know and it's all up to date. So as I said, there will be some deep dives and they will speak to everybody. So senior leaders, ECs, AEMs, they will look at the lesson visits and obviously evaluate and look at the sequencing and how do the tutors and the learners understand their starting points and their progress and the sequencing. They'll look at the learners' work, talk to yourselves as tutors, and of course it says pupils on here, but our learners. How well do they know what they've learned? Do they know what they're learning the next week? How do they know how that sequencing works within the lessons? And this will all be triangulated. So as I said, whatever we say, they will check with the learners. They will check and look at the evidence to make sure that that is triangulated. So again, I won't go through these because I'm aware of the time, but what I've put together here is from the EIF is some questions that within these meetings people may be asked. Because again, it's about being prepared and being able to think of examples to showcase what you do and your learners. But we've just put different questions here into different categories. So for example, these are questions that education staff might be asked. What is the rationale for the curriculum? What's the intent? How have you found that out to ensure that that's the correct courses that we're putting on? How have you involved partners and other people? And what's the impact of it? So again, always looking at the 3 I's when we're looking at what we may be asked and how we may answer those. Again, different questions here for tutors. So what are you teaching in this session? How does that build? So talking about sequencing and progress. How do we know that the learners didn't already know how to do that when they started? Have we measured, done some sort of baseline assessment to show their starting point so we can check their progress over time, and we can look at if their work has improved and they've gained new skills, etc. And looking at obviously how we're assessing them to make sure that that's taking place. Again, this is nothing that anybody wouldn't know because you're doing this, but it's just being aware of some examples of how you can, like I say, showcase what is being done. So how do you feed back to your learners? How do they know to improve? How are you obviously evidencing your RAPA, if it's a course that you're doing that's RAPA? And how do you embed those other things, as we talked about, English, maths, those wider skills, employability, equality and diversity, etc. Again, a big question that will be asked is about safeguarding, because they will check obviously on our policies and that staff, tutors, learners know about safeguarding, about any training that you do, and about obviously observations, how that process works and how you find that is just an example of questions. Like I say, there could be other questions. This isn't everything, but ones that we feel would be useful for people to think about. And again, they will talk to learners. And we've just put together here some questions that they may ask your learners. Again, do they know what they're going to learn over time? How is the course helping them reaching their goals? Pretty standard questions that you probably would be quite happy that your learners would know the answer for, but it's really good preparation for them to know what they could possibly be asked. And, you know, again, it's about them putting their best foot forward and showcasing what they do also. Not all of our learners we know will be going to work. It will depend, the questions depending on what course they do. We've got a lot of learners that, you know, it helps with their mental health and social isolation. So there's lots of different answers that they could give. But again, it will be about safeguarding and keeping safe online as well, if it's an online course. So if you take nothing away from today, please think about the 3 I's. That is the golden thread throughout everything we're doing. And the pedagogy of teaching is the key focus. It's not so much now with the new framework about the teachers teaching, it's about the learners learning. So what are the learners learning? Gone are the days years ago where it felt as if the teacher was at the front doing all the singing and dancing and it was all about the teacher. We're the facilitators of what those learners are learning in the classroom. And any lesson obviously could be observed or looked at that is funded through the government. Look at sequencing. What does that mean to you? How you can put that within what you're doing. Again, you all teach completely different courses, but how can you look at sequencing within your plan? And it says additional qualifications, but again, we're not all doing qualifications, but look at that wider picture. What knowledge, skills and behaviours has been embedded into the course or the programme that's over and above what's required for that qualification. It's not just about teaching to the qualification or the course anymore. It's looking at those wider skills. So what does that mean for us? As I said, we'll have a number of deep dives. They will really follow the learner's journey. So from the minute they come onto the course till they're finished, they'll look at everything in between. Observe the teaching learning assessment, have meetings with various groups of people, as we've discussed, and the big things that is about triangulating their findings. If they can't find what they're looking for, they will look for further evidence. And they will triangulate the consistency of the processes. As I said, are we doing in one region on that particular course the same in the other region? If not, why not? So they will look at that. So they'll look at the evidence of planning. So the paperwork that we have put together that we're using currently in the WEA will show that. If everybody, you know, is using that paperwork, it will show our sequencing, our evidence of planning. It will show our starting points and the progress. Of course, we're using Canvas at the moment for our student learner records. So they'll look for things if we've got smart learning outcomes and evidence that the learning's taking place. So our RAPA obviously evidence. And again, this will be changing and updating as we know with the new system. They'll also look for evidence of induction, initial assessment, targets, feedback and destination data. So these are the types of things that we use in the WEA that we've already got, that we can use obviously as evidence and things that we can show obviously Ofsted moving forward. So as I say, I'm confident that everybody has got these to show if need be, if they're called upon. So what to do from today is to ensure your learners are aware what to expect and they're clear about their intent implementation of the course and how it's sequenced and what their next steps would be. Your documentation's up to date and it's evident, like I say, if we need to look at that. And lessons are learner focused. As I said, it's about the learners and it's really a point for us to put our best foot forward and showcase our work. It's a little bit, I think, about, you know, we all want to come across as our best, of course, like being on your driving test. they say don't just move your eyes, move your head, because people can see that you're actually doing it. And this is exactly what it is. We do these things, but it's just really showcasing how we do them well. So again, what not to say. So not to be over, I'm sure anyone wouldn't, but not to be over familiar with an inspector. Only answer things that you're asked, and do not get into unnecessary conversations about things, because obviously that can go down a completely different road. Offer any evidence that's not been checked. So we will know beforehand things that, lessons they are going to and things they want to look at. So the core team, we will obviously check things and make sure things that are going are to the highest standard they possibly can be. So obviously not to offer any other things. It is absolutely fine if you're unsure to say to an inspector, oh, I can get that for you afterwards, if you feel you want to get that okayed or checked later on. You don't have to give it them that minute. We do have to get things to the inspectors promptly, but it is okay to say that you will show them at a later date. So as I said, make sure your learners are aware and they've got a good understanding of safeguarding prevent, what other skills that they will learn on your course, what type of assessments they'll be doing when, and make sure they know how they've progressed and their targets. I think that's why the course outline document that we've done is really useful for you to amend and use for your learners, because that will ensure that they would know all of those things. So when Ofsted, just the next one, sorry, just go through this. When Ofsted do come, obviously we will ask whoever they've spoken to at meetings or whoever's lessons they've come to feedback that information. And it would be ideal, I can't make everybody do this, but obviously for homework, to have a good knowledge and understanding of your region, to have a look at the position paper and the presentation, and have a good awareness of the EIF if you haven't already. An awareness of the previous Ofsted report and the SARS and QUIPs, which we will send out a sheet with all the links on for these things we've talked about today. I could say bedtime reading and anything that's asked, and the presentation will also all be available for everybody to have a look at as well. So I hope, I'm going to stop sharing, that has given you a bit of an insight into what Ofsted is, why we're doing it, how it affects us. I hope I've broke it down, into simple terms so that you haven't got to read everything word for word, but it's really about the impact on us, because obviously as an organisation, we really want to do our best. Our aim is to keep our good. I'm sure we're all aware that if you are a good organisation, it's better for your funding and, winning bids and things like that. It can have a detrimental effect to an organisation if they do get a 3, which is obviously requires improvement. And of course, every organisation is striving to be outstanding. We want to be a 1, but we really want to keep our good status, because that keeps us, at the forefront, and our reputation, and it makes us get more learners, and of course that creates more jobs. It all has a knock-on effect. So for me, really, it's just sharing that information, that the stuff that we're doing, although my job as head of quality, it sounds as if I'm talking a lot about this because Ofsted's coming on, we need to do this and we need to do that. For me, it's really about, this is normal practice and this is what we do. So when we do get the visitors, as I like to call them, nothing will be a stress and panic, because that's what we do anyway. And I know everything's not perfect all the time, and lots of different things to consider, but I think if we all are working from the same hymn sheet, we've all got the same information, we're all going in the same direction, it really does help with the quality and standards. And like I say, nobody will be phased when Ofsted comes. So I will, like I say, I do apologise, it's been a lot of information. And as I say, my team know I do like to talk, so I have tried to, I'm quite a quick talker. So it is a lot of information to take in, but it will all be shared. And like I say, I really tried to make it that it was about how it affects you as working here at WEA, because that's what people need to know. What have I got to do in my role to put my best foot forward, to showcase what my learners do, to help to contribute to us getting that grade 2, because we don't know, like I say, who they're going to come to see, which areas, and if we've all got the same information, it is really, really helpful. If anybody thinks, I want to know a bit more about that, or I've got this question, please just email, because the more informed everyone is, the more confident. And if anyone works anywhere else, as I say, and has any other ideas, or they looked at this where our previous, where I work as well, or they looked at that, please share, because like I say, the quality, although I am the head of quality, the whole visit of Ofsted and quality isn't just mine, it belongs to everybody. So that's why I'm really eager to share what I know, and it'd be quite informative to share it with everyone, because we're all in the same boat. I don't know if anybody's got any questions. I'm aware that I've not left very long. Apologies.
Jodi, sorry, just really quickly, there seems to be a trend on some of the feedback. Obviously, acronyms we need to respond to. People are struggling with some of the acronyms.
That's fine. I'll do a glossary for that. Put it on.
This is what everyone needs to do.
Yeah.
For every session, every course, these are your minimum kind of. This is what you must have. And then there's something about what does outstanding look like. So what's the difference between a requires improvement and an outstanding? From a teaching and learning perspective, what could that look like? And if we could maybe do some scaffolding around that, they seem to be some thematic. Sorry, Bettina.
No, that's brilliant. That's absolutely fine. No, like I say, what we can do is we'll put everything, as we said, we do on the Tutor Hub anyway, and we'll do all the questions. I'll get some of these other things together. And also, any feedback we get today, when we do another one of these days, we can give you more information. That's the whole point. It's tailored to suit what you need. And Bettina.
Yeah, thank you. It was that was really, really useful. One question, if you did answer it, I missed it. I'm not clear. You said how much notice the WEA is likely to get from Ofsted,
Yes.
but not how much notice each individual tutor or the students are going to get, particularly of a class visit.
As soon as we are informed, like I say, this is what we've been doing behind the scenes, the work to get that information out that minute, basically. So as soon as we know, we get that call that it's going to start this date, we will get that information by all those different avenues. So it will go on, like I say, Tutor Portal, there'll be text messages. This is why it's really important that what we've got in the system is correct. That's why I said about the phone numbers, because you might not be coming to work till the following week. We even will have your line manager call you if you're not in work. Every single member of that team in that region will know we want to try and get everything out within an hour. It's really important that everybody knows. And we have also got communication that we send out to learners. So we'll do that centrally. So, and again, each person, line manager or tutor, can re-disseminate that also, because it's better to know twice than not at all, isn't it? So we have got all the communication already at our fingertips, and we've been practicing that communication in each of the internal quality reviews. So the next one that's due in January, we'll probably practice sending it out to the learners within that particular region, because the more that we see where there's any flaws and somebody says, well, I didn't get it and I've come to work and I didn't know it was internal quality review, we would know that would happen in the inspection. So everybody, we would get them out as soon as possible. We have got some checklists for people as well of what you would need to do for Ofsted, so we will make sure you get all those. But any idea, I'll do a glossary of acronyms, because I can see that's come up, and we'll attach that also of things that have been in today, so we'll make sure you've got that. Who have I got next? Michaela. Oh, you're on mute, Michaela. Don't worry, you're not the first.
No, sorry, I wasn't looking at myself on the screen. So, thank you. That was a really good presentation. I just wondered, in the checklist, on one of the slides, you said, don't give them any information if you're not sure about it. Don't give Ofsted any information during inspection. I did put a note on the chat. Perhaps it would be helpful just to get some examples of not what not to say and what not to give them in terms of when they're asking you for evidence, because I wasn't sure exactly what that referred to. Should everything they need to see already be loaded up onto Canvas, for example? Yeah.
No, that's great, Michaela. We can do that. Obviously, I wasn't going to in the form today.
Of course,
so
yeah,
but you're all professional people. I wouldn't want to insult you by telling you what not to say. But yeah, if that'd be helpful, anything you think that would help, we're quite happy to get together.
It was more just on in terms of it was a specific note talking about evidence, and it said if you're not sure. So just yeah, absolutely. Thank you,
Christine. You're on mute, Christine. Oh no, she's not. But you're not. I can't hear Christine. Can anyone else?
You might need to click
it's my headset.
Oh, you're in there. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Sorry about that. You talk about communication, but the flaw is that it doesn't reach an email, and I only ever look at my email. And also, if I'm away and I've got just using my phone, not my main computer, I can't get my email because my phone won't accept it. So there are all sorts of technical problems which I hope somebody in the background will sort out, because we need instant communication for everything.
Yes. Well, if you have, now we've had this discussion, it will make people think, how would I get to find out? And I totally get that, because, you know, we've got a lot of staff that work other places and don't necessarily check their WE emails regularly. So is it that we would be best to have your personal mobile just on the system so that text message could reach you immediately? Again, it may be something to discuss with your line manager, or it may be that your line manager would give you a call on your personal mobile to check that you were. But again, depending on the line managers, how many tutors they've got, there could be quite a few people to call, which would take longer. So I think in regions, it's really thinking about what's the quickest, easiest way to get to all the staff that you line manage. And I'm sure you as tutors want to be informed quite quickly. So it may be the text message system that would work for you. But we are going to do it in as many avenues as possible to cover a wide range of people. I'm aware I've only got 1 minute because I don't want to go over, because that was our big thing today, that we were going to make sure you got all the breaks properly. So I'll just go to Jodi as the last one, and I will answer everything else that's on the chat afterwards and take on your ideas. Jodi.
Sorry, unmute. Sorry, just unmuting. Yeah, it was just having seen some of the comments down in the chat about low-level learners and learners without English as a first language, and people saying they can't understand Ofsted and things like that. It's really, some of those learners don't have email, won't necessarily get text messages, things like that. And it's maybe about thinking about how you communicate to them about Ofsted coming. And I think that's something that needs to be considered. So that was just why I was sort of chucking that in there.
If anybody's got any ideas, again, my previous organisation I worked for, I managed the special needs department. And we did have to do, again, it was a little bit longer. We did do some in letter form and post them. But again, it's a different organisation, and obviously they wouldn't know immediately, and especially with the postal strikes at the moment, they'd probably get it after Ofsted had been. But yes, there is other ways that we could probably look at that and think about it. But as I said, if I had the answers to everything, I'd probably run in the country. But if you've got any suggestions whatsoever of things, like I say, that you would think about, because I know it's a lot to take in, please just email me, because we're happy to. Again, it's about us all working together and putting our best foot forward. So apologies, I can't take any more questions, because as I say, we're very aware that we want to make sure we have the breaks. I hope you enjoy the rest of the day, because I will obviously see you in some of the other sessions. Thank you for listening to me, because I do know, I can say, starting to like the sound of my own voice, but I hope you found it very, it will help you moving forward. And if you've got anything else you want to discuss, please just let me know. Brilliant. Thank you for your time. Take care. Bye.